Welcome. I'm Joanne Flaxbeard, a National Training Consultant here at Boys Town. As a National Training Consultant, I have the privilege of working with educators from across the country using our Boys Town education model. Before coming to Boys Town, I taught for 30 years in elementary classrooms. It was probably about 15 minutes into my first day of teaching that I realized teaching was far more than simply delivering academic content. My students needed emotional and behavioral support as well, and I couldn't do it alone. I needed parents to be part of the process. However, effectively communicating and working with parents to achieve these goals was not always easy, nor did I do it very well at times. That's who I am. Let's learn a little bit about who you are. Please type in your name, position, and where you're located in the chat box. And remember, you should have all participants selected. Welcome, Raphael. Welcome, Melissa. Welcome to Geronimo as well. I see we have quite a few others signed in. We're glad to have you with us this afternoon. At Boys Town, our mission is to change the way America cares for children, families, and communities by providing and promoting an integrated continuum of care that instills Boys Town values to strengthen body, mind, and spirit. At National Training, our part of that mission is to provide social-emotional behavior-based models, multi-tiered interventions, and research-supported methods that we use to train across the country to hundreds of schools and thousands of educators. For the past 100 years, Boys Town has worked to strengthen communities and support children and families seeking healing from past trauma, relational challenges, or mental health concerns. Boys Town provides a range of services to meet children and families where they are and to serve them in the greatest capacity possible. At Boys Town, we also work hard to empower schools to effectively deal with ever-increasing challenges that present themselves each day. Our education model provides schools and programs with a safe, positive, and proactive approach to teaching pro-social behaviors. In the time we have together, we'll be focusing on how to connect with parents on the social-emotional learning goals you have for your students. As such, at the end of this 60-minute webinar, you will walk away with strategies for initiating and maintaining positive relationships with parents, tools for communicating expectations effectively, and strategies for collaborating with parents. Before we move on, I'd like you to take a moment to reflect on the relationships you have now with the parents of your current students. Would you say they are strong, good, fair, weak, or non-existent? Please indicate in the poll. Excellent. It looks like I see a range of relationships that are indicated as non-existent, too strong, with the majority of them being good relationships. That's wonderful to hear. So we'll try to build on those good relationships you've already started with your parents. Usually during the first few weeks of school, it's fair to say that most teachers start out with good intentions to develop strong relationships with parents. Teachers have had the opportunity to make initial contacts with parents, and these contacts are for the most part positive in nature. This allows for that fresh start of the new school year. However, as the school year gets busy, it's common for communication between teachers and parents to drop off significantly. When there is little communication, it becomes more difficult to problem solve and to work with parents when students have behavioral difficulties. In this first section, we're going to discuss how to initiate and maintain a strong positive relationship with parents so that when problems arise, educators can work with parents as a team to effectively resolve problems. Why are strong positive relationships between educators and parents important? Parental inclusion and participation in the school life of their child is widely known to be beneficial. Not only are benefits seen in the academic and behavioral successes of the child, but the entire school learning community as well. Students become more accountable, parents learn more about school and often gain useful information about how to help their child at home. The school benefits when parents use their time and talents to enhance the educational experience. Here at Boys Town, we know that working with parents as partners in the social and emotional development of their child is important to a child's success. After all, parents are teachers, constantly, continually, and always, and as such are the most influential people in a child's life. And as educators, our efforts in the social and emotional growth of a child are far more powerful when we can work as a team with parents. Let's talk for a moment about challenges you face when trying to build a positive relationship with the parents of your students. In the chat box, write down a challenge or two you find gets in the way of initiating and maintaining positive relationships with parents. Excellent. I see comfort, time, trust, that's important. Contact information, absolutely that can be a challenge. A lack of time or correct contact information. Absolutely, you're right, Richard. Sometimes parents do only hear about the negative behaviors of their children, and it does put up walls between teachers and parents. And Carolyn, you're right as well, too. Parents don't have the time. Some of them, may be working jobs that are during the hours when we might need to contact them, or some even do more than one job. And cultural differences are challenging as well. Excellent. Thank you for participating. All of your answers are legitimate reasons why it can be difficult to have and maintain a positive relationship with parents. I noticed in my experience as a teacher, these difficulties centered around 5 typical areas. Time. How can you fit it into your day? Is it possible to connect with parents who may be working a job or two and aren't available when you are? Desire. Parents don't show up at school events or don't answer the phone. They might be apathetic or unreliable. Attitudes can be a problem. Some parents have anger or aggression or negative attitudes towards school, or anxieties and fears. And unfortunately, some may be apathetic to what the child is doing at school. The ability. Sometimes families are unstable or dysfunctional, and even transportation or communication barriers can cause a problem. And some other things, well, parents of older students tend to be less involved. Another roadblock may simply be lack of information. Teachers and parents may have little understanding of each other's goals. Teachers may not know the goals parents have for their children and how to help them to achieve those goals. And parents may not know much about what schools do to help develop social skills students need to be successful. Nor may they understand what teachers expect them to do at home to aid in that development. Let's first consider those initial contacts you have with parents. These could include registration and orientation opportunities or back-to-school and open house events. How are parents welcomed? Is staff available as parents walk in the door to greet them and guide them to their destination? Eye contact, a smile, and positive greeting can go a long way in helping parents feel at home. A parent who walks into a school building and is acknowledged by the adults he or she comes in contact with can feel very differently than a parent who is ignored until they get to the classroom or the office. This is not only important when parents come for formal events, but also for whenever a parent enters the school building. And all staff should be greeting parents when they see them. This will help establish the school has a welcoming, friendly, positive culture. When teachers first meet parents, acknowledging them with a positive greeting is a first step to building trust. Introducing yourself, shaking hands, and welcoming parents can help put all parents at ease, even those parents who have a history of negative school experiences. When you begin to teach social skills to your students, this first skill of greeting others will help establish the importance you place on social skills and to show parents you're willing to walk the talk. While this is an excellent start to opening lines of communication, it may not be sufficient enough for laying a foundation for future effective communication and collaboration. The number of parents attending and the limited amount of time during these beginning of the year school events makes it difficult to make significant personal connections. Now, let's talk about how to build on this initial contact. An important key to building and keeping a good rapport with parents happens during the first few contacts the teacher has with a parent. Making an additional contact with each of your parents within the first few days or week of school can go a long way in showing you want to be a partner with parents in the behavioral success of their child. Reaching out and talking to parents in person can achieve that goal. A recommended way to do this would be to make a personal call to each parent, praising positive skills you've noticed their child using. While it may be easier to talk to parents about academics, it's important to note that successes and challenges in academics can be related to social skills. For instance, a student who is strong academically may be skilled at following instructions and working with others, whereas a student who struggles academically may have difficulty with staying on task or asking for help. One of the roadblocks to this recommendation is that these conversations can be time-consuming and has the potential for parents, and at times the teacher as well, to get off track. Being prepared with a format to follow can lessen the likelihood of a conversation taking longer and turning negative. Here's a model for a conversation that can help keep conversations positive, concise, and focused on social skills. There are 4 basic steps, and the focus is on letting the parent know the positive things you've noticed in their child. First, introduce yourself. Keeping this brief will keep the conversation concise and leave more time for parents to have the opportunity to share about their child. Next, praise the student's social skills. Be prepared to let the parent know a few positive behaviors you've noticed. Even the most challenging students do some things well. The skills can be as basic as the child looks at you when you're talking to her, or as complex as the child is able to work well with others on group projects. Then, ask the parent about the child. This step is important and shouldn't be omitted. Many times, in an effort to be efficient, teachers may be more in control of the interaction and not provide ample opportunity for parents to truly be part of the conversation. This step will most likely be the most time-consuming part of the dialogue, but has the potential to provide you with valuable information. It could be that parents may have only had academic conversations with teachers and may answer your questions with an academic focus. In that case, you may need to guide the discussion back to behaviors. For instance, if a parent indicates their child does poorly in math, you may follow up with, "I've noticed students who have difficulty in math struggle with asking for help. That could be something we need to work on at school." And finally, conclude the conversation by ending it on a positive note. Here's what this conversation may sound like. "Hello, Mrs. Jackson. I'm Joanne Flaxbeard, and I'll be Edward's 4th grade teacher this year. In the first few days we've had together, I've noticed how hard Edward works. He gets started right away and finishes assignments on time. What can you tell me about Edward that will help make 4th grade successful for him? It's been nice to talk to you. I look forward to working with you this year." You may be thinking, that's all fine and good, but as a middle or high school teacher, I have over 100 students. How could I possibly make all those phone calls? Well, that's a legitimate concern. For those of you who teach middle or high school, perhaps a personal email would be the best way to connect with parents. The format for a phone conversation would work just as well for an email. You may then make it a priority to call only the parents of students you know may struggle behaviorally in your class.
If that is not a feasible option, think about how you can work as a team with your colleagues to contact parents. Perhaps your school groups students in teams that have the same core teachers. An option would be to have each teacher contact a number of parents so that all parents hear from one of the core teachers. Another option would be to work with school deans, guidance counselors, or other staff to help with the calls. Regardless of how you decide to call or contact parents, the important point to remember here is that when you make an effort to have a positive interaction with parents well before you ever have the need to contact them for a negative reason, you will have established that you believe in their child and it's your goal to help their child be successful. A parent who has heard you compliment their child is more likely to trust that you want what's best for the child. In turn, the parent with a child who struggles behaviorally may be more willing to work with you when problem issues arise.
Of course, not all conversations may go this simply or easily, so it's a good idea to be prepared for when conversations go off track. This can happen when a parent wants to tell you the problems their child has had in the past. A possible response could be, "I understand your concerns. I'll be watching the situation. Let's touch base in a week or so and talk about how it's going." This will give you the opportunity to assess the situation and be prepared with talking points and ways you can work with the parent and child to resolve an issue. During this follow-up conversation, it is equally important to keep it positive. Start again by praising the positive skills the student uses. Then you can guide the conversation toward discussing social skills that may resolve the issue. Remember, you want to work in partnership with the parent, so it's important to ask for their input. Now that you've had an initial positive conversation with parents, it's time to think about how to keep that momentum going. Healthy social climates accentuate the positive. We know that when working with students, it's important to keep a 4-to-1 ratio in order to change and improve behaviors. That means 4 praises for every 1 correction. Keeping that in mind, wouldn't it be powerful if teachers could make 4 positive contacts with parents before ever having to contact them with a problem? That would be ideal. However, making 4 positive phone calls home may be close to impossible for many teachers. Consider this. It is most likely that you have heard about difficult students well before they ever walk into your classroom. The previous teachers of those students may inform you of what to expect, or at the very least, you've heard them venting about struggles with the student in the teacher's lounge. Having that background information will help you to know which parents you may want to make it a goal to make additional positive phone calls or contacts with early in the school year. For all other students, an option to reach a goal of a few positive contacts before a contact regarding a problem would be to establish a procedure in which you send regular positive notes home. In my classroom, I used happy notes. Before the start of each school year, I purchased inexpensive note cards or index cards. I put each student's name on 3 different cards and shuffled the deck. Each school day, I pulled out the first 3 cards. During the day, I made it a point to notice something positive about each of the 3 students. Before the end of the day, I jotted down a quick note to the students' parents on the card. And at the end of each day, I read the notes to all the students before sending them home. When I ran out of cards, I made a new deck. My students and their parents loved this procedure. For those students who struggled the most behaviorally, I stacked the deck and put their name in extra times. And at times, I even wrote an additional note some days to make sure these students received a note every few days. When I look back at my career in teaching, it was those years I used happy notes that I felt I had the best relationship with parents. Parents want to know when their child does something well. Unfortunately, parents are typically contacted only when there is a problem. Included in your handout is an example of what a positive note home could look like. Here you can see that it would be easy to fill in the child's name, the skill, and what exact behavior the child showed to indicate the skill used. These resources can also be found in our book, Tools for Teaching Social Skills in School. This book not only has lesson plans, activities, and blended teaching techniques, but includes notes you can send home to parents explaining the skill of the week steps and reasons for using the skill. When you use a social-emotional learning program, such as our well-managed schools, it's important that parents are well informed on what social skills are and the strategies in place for teaching and practicing them within the school day. If you've attended a workshop and are currently using our Boys Town education model, you're already familiar with our 16 basic social skills and our tools and strategies. If you aren't, here's a brief overview. Social skills are tools that enable people to communicate, learn, get their needs met in appropriate ways, get along with others, make friends, and develop healthy relationships. Generally, they are skills that help us interact appropriately with everyone we meet through our journey in life. Boys Town social skills have a name and specific steps to follow. The Boys Town education model is a systematic approach to teaching and practicing these skills both before and after behavior occurs. In order for parents to truly be partners in any social-emotional learning objectives, it's important that we as educators take the time to explain in depth what social-emotional learning is, what social skills are, and how they are taught within the time constraints of the day with little interruption to academic instruction. Part of helping parents to understand your plan for embedding social and emotional learning into your school day is to help them understand what social skills teaching will look like and sound like. For instance, you'll want to inform them of the specific social skills being taught and what a typical lesson may look like. If your school identifies a specific skill of the week to target, you'll want to let parents know that when teaching students the skill, teachers will explicitly name the skill, teach the steps, help students understand the importance of the skill, and provide guidance when using the skill. You can then show parents how using skills at home can help their child be more successful with basic routines. Think of the numerous routines we expect our kids to be successful with: getting ready in the morning, homework, chores, and bedtime routines, to name just a few. Here is a resource we have available on our website, boystowntraining.org, that can help parents transition social skills learned at school into success with routines at home. This chart is included in your packet and can be downloaded from our website in the Lesson Plans and Assignments section. Teachers can print this and send it home to help parents discuss and reinforce social skill teaching at home. For instance, a parent might reinforce the skill of staying on task when a child goes through their morning routine, or talk about asking for help when needed during homework time. This next sheet can aid parents into developing a routine and the steps in accomplishing it. You can see in this example, the routine is getting ready for school, and the steps needed to accomplish it are: get out of bed when the alarm clock goes off, brush your hair and teeth, get dressed, eat breakfast, get your backpack, and be at the bus stop by 7:15. At the bottom are skills the child will be able to use to accomplish this routine: staying on task, following instructions, and being on time. You are receiving a blank sheet in your packet, and additional copies can be downloaded from our website as well. Once skills have been taught, you'll be ready to move on to the next phase of social development: praising when the child performs the skill. Praise is one of the most powerful tools we have when it comes to changing and improving behaviors. While praise may come more easily when considering a child's academic successes, at times educators and parents alike fail to praise behavioral successes as often. We naturally expect our children to behave well because it's the right thing to do. But when praise is used appropriately and genuinely, it can reinforce and encourage positive behaviors. While words of acknowledgement, such as "good job" or "I'm proud of you," are great ways to praise, adding more information will help a child to completely understand what exactly he or she did correctly, thus making it more likely they can replicate the behavior. Making a praise statement more specific may sound like, "Excellent, you stayed on task and finished your work," or "Way to go, you did a nice job working with others." If you're making positive phone calls home or sending positive emails or notes, you're modeling specific praise each time you tell a parent the positive things you've noticed their child doing. Perhaps adding information and examples for praise in school newsletters or on social media may be something you might want to look into using. And for some of our younger students, providing our parents with a behavior chart may help parents to incorporate behavioral praise at home. Here we have a graphic you may want to use when sharing with parents the difference between general and specific praise. You can see on the right, under specific praise, how adding more information, that is, specifically describing the appropriate behavior, helps a child know exactly what he or she did well. Though proactive teaching and praise is key to helping our students develop the social and emotional competencies to make them successful, we know that kids will at times misbehave. We want parents to know that even when correcting a child's misbehavior, our focus will be on teaching alternative positive behaviors. For most small misbehaviors, our teaching can be in the form of an informal conversation. During this conversation, it's our desire to aid students in processing events and problem-solving better options. For bigger misbehaviors, our teaching is more teacher-driven, meaning the teacher more directly processes the event and articulates the better choice to the student. To help parents understand the teaching focus during misbehaviors, you may want to provide them with a guide for what your teaching will look and sound like. For small behaviors, this conversation focuses on more bidirectional interaction between the adult and the child. The adult guides the child into problem solving when a negative behavior is exhibited by asking questions first and directing the child to try the positive option in the future. For large behaviors, this conversation is more adult-directed by specifically articulating to the child the misbehavior and alternative positive behavior. The conversation continues with asking the child to practice or redo the positive behavior. At times, when behaviors are successful, it will be important to let the parent know the behavior, consequence, and the steps you will take to help the student be more successful in the future. And be sure to ask parents for their input, and if parents are open to it, offer suggestions for how they might reinforce positive choices at home. We've spent quite a bit of time on how to inform parents on what we will be teaching, how praise will help students be successful, and how correcting misbehaviors provide us another teaching opportunity. How can you articulate this information in a timely and efficient way? Here was a unique opportunity one school used to enhance parental involvement regarding math homework. At my children's middle school, they offered a parent math class every fall. It was a 1-hour class that was held 4 weeks in a row. During the class, the school's math teachers reviewed algebra and geometry concepts that students would be learning and parents most likely learned several years earlier, but probably have used little. Throughout the classes, parents learned processes and specific language the teachers would be using. Teachers provided parents with the skills they needed to help their child with math at home. The positive outcomes were plenty. Parents did become more involved with math homework. Parents and teachers worked as a team to build math skills, and this teamwork came in handy when a student began to falter. And as an added result, math scores increased significantly. Now, imagine the results you may experience if you use this model to provide social and emotional learning support for the parents of your students. Consider having informational meetings, classes if you will, in which parents can learn how your school addresses the social and emotional learning of your students. Having brief sessions that provide parents with the processes and language you will be using during social skill instruction will be helpful to keep parents informed and engaged in the process. A possible agenda for these sessions may look like this. Week 1, focus on what is social-emotional learning. You can define social-emotional learning and articulate its importance. Discuss the social skills the school will concentrate on. Ask parents for additional social skills they deem important. And briefly introduce the concepts of teaching, praising, and teaching while correcting. Then, during week 2, you can focus on teaching social skills by introducing social skills, teaching their names, specific steps, and child-centered reasons, and giving parents an opportunity to role-play how to teach a social skill to their child. Then on week 3, you can work on praising social skills. Start by defining the difference between general and specific praise, teach what specific praise is, and have parents practice giving specific praise. And finally, during week 4, focus on teaching social skills during correction. Discuss the focus on teaching during correction and help teach parents conversations they can use for small and large behaviors. Finally, it's important to know that parents will appreciate when we celebrate successes. Most schools already have celebrations throughout the year to recognize student achievement. Consider adding social-emotional learning successes to these celebrations. Is there anything you or your school already does to celebrate behavioral successes? Go ahead and respond in the chat box. Many times schools, you have a student of the week or student of the month or student of the quarter, and those may be mostly for academic. You can add a behavioral element as well. Oh, excellent. PBIS reward activities. And what kinds of things are those? You could expand on that. Well, that would be great. Good. I see somebody does the 6 pillars of character and celebrating students who exhibit those characteristics. That's a great idea. It looks like we have a few more ideas for sharing successes. And I see we have, oh, I like that, dance parties, picnics, movies, for students who've exhibited good behavior during a time frame. Bucket filling and energy bus, I'm familiar with those. And a bucket filling pledge every morning, great ideas. Social skills taught at the beginning of the semester and recognizing students of the month, Fierce Fridays, school dances, running with the pack. I like that. Phenomenal attendance, academics, and citizenship. And great consequences they get for those. Line passes, restaurant certificates, and field trips. Great ideas. Thank you for sharing those. Absolutely. The more you can celebrate those successes, the more important students are going to see that this is truly a goal that you have. Providing parents with pertinent information regarding social and emotional learning competencies that will help their child be successful will provide benefits as you work with parents and your students' behavioral goals. Now that we've had a chance to discuss building trust and building information, let's talk about how to build collaboration with parents. When we think about collaborating with parents, it's mostly in terms of the interactions we have with parents in the context of parent-teacher conferences or intervention meetings. Both are excellent opportunities to discuss progress with behavioral goals. Let's first talk about parent-teacher conferences. When we think about parent-teacher conferences, our tendency is to focus on academics. However, when social and emotional learning is a goal, it's important to provide time during conferences to address these strengths and challenges as well. Many times when it comes to parent-teacher conferences, parents are simply given a place and time for the conference. In order to establish the culture of collaboration, consider allowing parents an opportunity to provide input on what they would like to discuss during these conferences. Consider sending a note or email home prior to conferences in which parents can provide information on specific items they would like to talk about. Include places for parents to tell what they are proud of and concerned about, in both areas of academics and social skills. A note could look something like this. You can see here there is a space for parents to provide input on both academic and social emotional skills. This is also included in your handout. As parents attend conferences, knowing that time will be given to address their thoughts will be powerful in establishing a culture of collaboration. This note can be useful not only during parent-teacher conferences, that can work equally as well for any other time in which you need to meet with parents regarding a student's progress. When it is deemed necessary to hold formal intervention meetings, there are other things to consider in order to maintain a culture of collaboration. At most formal intervention meetings, parents are meeting with several staff members. This staff may include not only the classroom teacher, but special education staff, administrators, counselors, school nurses, school psychologists, or others. It's likely that the parent may not know these adults or understand their role in the process. It can be quite intimidating for a parent to walk into a room to discuss their child with people they are unfamiliar with. Here is a list of suggestions to consider in order to help parents feel at ease and part of the team at these meetings. Assign a staff member to meet with the parents prior to the meeting to explain the process and who will be attending. The same staff member should meet again with the parent after the meeting to debrief. Note the ratio of educators to parents in the meeting. Keep this ratio as low as possible. Have all members of the meeting introduce themselves to parents and explain their role in the meeting. If possible, provide parents with business cards or a list of names and titles. When beginning the meeting, start with the positive. Parents want to know school staff care and notice good things about their child. Use language that parents will understand. Refrain from using acronyms and other educational terms a parent might not be familiar with. Ask parents for their input. When considering school interventions, make sure parents understand what they entail. And when considering interventions to try at home, make sure parents have the contacts, resources, and supports available to follow through. Whether you are working with parents as a result of goals set at a parent-teacher conference or an intervention meeting, setting attainable goals and meeting regularly to assess progress is of utmost importance. Continue to make sure that parents are given the opportunity to ask questions and provide input. And remember, change takes time. Be sure to note even the smallest gains the child is making toward the goal. During our time together, we've had the chance to discuss how to connect with parents by building trust. That is, ensuring our initial contacts with parents are positive and welcoming, and maintaining trust by letting parents know we notice the positive choices students make. Building information. Helping parents understand what social and emotional learning is by providing informational classes and keeping them abreast of the specific skills that are being taught. And building collaboration, putting parents at ease and giving them an opportunity to provide input. At the beginning of this webinar, we discussed challenges you face when trying to build positive relationships with the parents of your students. Though we haven't completely eliminated all those challenges, know that when you make an effort to tell parents what their child does positively and you provide them with the opportunity to have input during interactions you have with them, you may find that parents are more willing to work with you for the betterment of their child. Take a few moments now to respond to the chat question. What do you hope to do in the next few weeks to help connect with the parents of your students? I like that. Looks like from Catherine, hopes to brainstorm with other parents and teachers on ways to increase parent collaboration. Awesome. Hope you got some good ideas today. Strengthen your parent as the child's first teacher initiative. Great idea. Thank you for sharing that. Again, there are always going to be some challenges, but if you think about what you can do at school to help parents feel more comfortable and know that you recognize the good things that their kids are doing in school might help with that collaboration. Thank you for your interest, time, and participation in today's webinar. As you venture back to your day-to-day duties, remember Boys Town has several resources available to support you. On our website, boystowntraining.org has lots of great information and resources. We also have a website devoted to parents and parenting skills at parenting.org. Our Boys Town Press has their own website. Here you can find hundreds of books, DVDs, CDs, and learning aids where educators, parents, or caregivers can find answers and advice and encouragement. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest. And if you or your school would like additional information as to how we can bring services to you, contact John McGuire at 800-545-5771 or at training@boystown.org or on our website, boystowntraining.org as well. Thank you again for joining us at the webinar today. I appreciate your participation and joining us at this webinar today, and I wish you luck with building positive relationships with the parents of your students. Thank you.